Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we're coming back to DistroWars. We're going to look at two Ubuntu-based distributions, which are both designed and catered to new users, which are both super system light resources. One of these is Peppermint OS, which I use on a variety of different systems, and the other one is Linux Lite, which in and of itself has some compelling offers. Each of these has advantages and disadvantages. There are definitely some trade-offs and some other tips and other tools available here. So let's go ahead and first dive on into the websites. So looking at their website, Linux Lite, which is linuxliteos.com, you can head on over here and read all about the system, at home, at work, in the office, playtime. There's a download button down here. You can actually buy media. So if you're not sure how you can actually produce the media, you can actually buy it, which is cool. Information on the current, there's checksums, there's various mirrors, repo details, just so many things on the system to help you out. So we'll head on over to the download page and see what we have over here. So the current version is Linux Lite 5.0. I did actually just download and install this today, and I ran all updates. We have a straight download. We have torrents there as well. And if I remember correctly, I think we only have the 64-bit version. So if you are on an older system, you're not going to be able to use this one here if you're looking for something that's 32-bit. Although I'd say that most of you probably that's not going to be much of a matter. You can grab information. There's support forums, bugs, contact information, forums, feedbacks, donation forms, shop. Their website is very easy to use, very easy to navigate. You can find what you need. Very user-friendly, and it is definitely an excellent system. The other distro we are comparing today is Peppermint. Peppermint does still have the 32-bit option if you need. They also still have, I think they still have the ability where you used to be able to buy the media if you did not know how to download it and prepare it. Let's go ahead and have a look. So we have our direct downloads. We have our torrent downloads. If you can still purchase a USB drive, I don't see it. It might actually be in the shop, and I just didn't see it. That used to be an option. Not sure if it is anymore. Okay, so coming soon, Peppermint 6. It looks like they don't have those at this point in time. So. But still, you can come on over here. If you head on over to the user's guide, there's not quite as much information, which is actually nice if you want to get all set up because they literally do have everything that you need to get everything ready to run on Peppermint. So both of these are going to be good distributions. They're both going to give us all the information that we need, and each one of these guys are simple to use. So let's go ahead and dive into the distributions themselves and see what they look like. All right, so here we are. We have landed on our login page. You can grab your username from the list or select other and manually type one in. I'm going to enter in my super secret password, which is definitely not 123. And then we'll go ahead and get this guy logged in. All right, so here we are on the desktop. And when we first boot up Linux Lite, we have the start screen. Very helpful to help you get acquainted with the operating system if you are new. This will show every time you start up until you uncheck the box that is right down here. So you have the option to check it or uncheck the box. We have a variety of support options and contribute options. We also have a series of little start here's in the blue. So we have install updates. I've already installed all of our updates. We also have installed drivers. Both of these distros will have the driver installation tool because that is an Ubuntu tool, and these are both based on Ubuntu. This one, though, has it here on the startup menu. You're going to find Peppermint does not have one of these welcome menus. And so if you're just kind of booting up a distribution, trying to learn a little bit more about it, Linux Lite is actually going to be a little bit better for you because it actually has these guides to help you along the way. We have set a restore point, we have install language support, and we have the ability to select a light or a dark theme right out of the box. So you can come over here, there's our light theme, there's our dark theme. So you have the choice which one you want to go with. We have a variety of different tools over here, just the requirements. We have light software. We have upgrading information. We have some shortcut keys and things like that. All right, so let's go ahead and have a look first before I do much else. Let's go ahead and look at our memory. HTOP is installed on both of these distros by default. I did want to go in here and make sure that that was installed before we started. So this is running at 584 megabytes. So certainly a low spec system. All right, so that is actually what we have there. As far as, I love the way the terminal is themed, by the way. Very nice. They put a lot into the theming of this, which XFCE is not intrinsically the most pretty desktop environment, but they actually did a really good job of theming this. Again, this is the light theme. You can easily choose between the light theme and the dark theme on the initial setup. All right, so other tools that we have. Linux Lite actually has a variety of tools available to help you along with some other tasks. So if we have a look at these guys here, we have all these guys down here under the system tool that say Lite, other than Lite DM, of course, that say Lite. These are actually all Linux Lite specific software. System reports, we have the ability to do some simple tweaks. So fixing a boot up, clearing memory, setting the default web browser. So a lot of these are things that you might generally need to either know where it is in the settings or sometimes in many cases do it through the terminal. So here you have the ability to just come in here and just run a couple of system tweaks. Lite sources over here, we are going to enter our password for that. And this is going to show you where your various repositories are. So you want to come over here and if you're installing this in someplace other than United States, you're going to want to come in here and change this to a nearby repository, which is going to make keeping everything up to date and any interactions with the repositories much quicker. We do have the welcome screen. We have a software tool. So this is very much like MX Linux. We have a simple software installer, which does not have an exclusive list of software or an exhaustive list of software, I should say, but it does have a lot of your most common software, and it's going to give you here the ability to simply install stuff based on what you're looking for. So Kodi, here's Clementine Multimedia, OBS. We have Calibri, Audacity, Dropbox, Etcher. A lot of options we have, but of course you can see that there's not a boatload of stuff in here. But there is definitely enough stuff that a person might switch over to Linux and be looking for Spotify, Skype, things like that. So you do have the ability to have those software pieces of software installed. Out of the box, the software, there is a lot more than on this one than there is on Peppermint for reasons we'll get into when we get into Peppermint, but still it's definitely by no means bloated. We have basic system tools, anything that you would expect. We do have GIMP pre-installed. We have a Paint application, Photo Manager. We start with the Firefox web browser. We have Thunderbird installed. Under multimedia, we have VLC, we have a CD burner, volume control. We have just the basic suite of Office software. This is probably LibreOffice. Let's go ahead and boot that guy up. So yes, it is indeed LibreOffice. And then just a couple system tools, printers. Here's your HTOP, System Restore, Task Managers, and terminals. All right, so let's have a look at this guy here. Let's close this and have a look at our versions. We are running 6.4, so a very recent version. Let's go ahead and double check for a spelling checker. Looks like we do not have a spelling checker installed by default. You are going to want to come in here and install your spell checkers, plugins, and things like that. I actually have a video about how to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and close that guy out there. As far as installing things from the repositories, outside of the basic software, Lite software installer, they give us Synaptic Package Manager, and that is all that it takes. So if you're looking for anything that's not quite the most popular, you're going to have to learn how to use Synaptic Package Manager or, hey, learn how to use the terminal and install it there. But nevertheless, we do have Synaptic here that you can go ahead and install things in that respect. All right, let's have a look at our theming real quick. So let's head on. Let's just go into our settings. Easier to find our theming over there. There's color profiles. I don't remember where our theming happens to be. There, it's under appearance. All right, so over here we just have just a couple of theming options here. So this is our light, this is our dark. Then we have your old classic Aruedas. We have Graybird, Graybird Dark, and we have a high contrast. We don't have a lot of extra theming options. We do have a lot more icon sets. You can see here we're running the a Papyrus specifically adapted to this theme set. But we have a few other icons in there. It does look like most of the ones that we have are your modern flat icons, which is just okay. We do have things like Odweda, which are old skeuomorphic beasts and behemoths that most people probably won't like anymore. Most of the other things are pretty much standard XFCE, which is exactly what we are looking at. I do want to bring up, because it obviously is becoming a bigger issue, snaps and flat packs. By default, this does not, I believe it does not even have snapd installed. So if I do snap list, it's telling us, oh, it's not installed. So this does not even install our snap packages. I do have a sneaky suspicion that because this is based on if this is based on Ubuntu, if we install the Chromium browser, my guess is it might actually install that. But I didn't check for sure. So you can see, yep, right here, following new packages will be installed, Chromium browser and snapd. So it is going to install snapd here, and it's going to install the Chromium browser via a snap package via apt. If you want to use snaps, hey, that's fine. The support is here. You just need to install it. The same is going to be for Flatpak. It does not have Flatpak installed by default. So everything that you find in Synaptic is going to be just your basic software repositories. And if you do want to manage your Flatpaks or snaps, you're going to have to either do that through the terminal or walk through some separate steps to get that ready for your GUI. And I actually have slated on my list a video to show you exactly how to do that. So there is Linux Lite. Let's go ahead and jump on over to Peppermint next. So here we are on Peppermint. So we booted on in here, and everything else, the basic startup login screen is pretty much the same. Let's go ahead and start in with running an HTOP. So this one here is actually running at 311 megabytes out of the box versus Linux Lite's 584. So man, Linux Lite's, I mean, that's pretty heavy. I mean, come on. This guy managed to shave off over 200 extra megabytes of space there. It's really nice. All right, but anyway, I digress. The terminal is not quite as beautiful as Linux Lite is, but we can actually let that be. Now, one of the things I love about Peppermint is it really takes the best of a lot of different distributions and puts them together. So one of the things we notice down here is we actually have the Mint updater. I didn't highlight the updater in Linux Lite. Basically, it just pulls up a generic updater, which tells you that there's packages. This one here is actually going to tell you exactly which packages, give you the ability to hold back certain packages, do things a lot easier from the GUI. You also will have the ability to manage your Linux kernels in here as well. And so that is actually an extra nice feature that we have inside of Peppermint as far as their various items. Now, let's have a quick look at what they have installed out of the box, because there's a little bit of things we need to mention here. First and foremost, we have just some basic suite of applications, but you'll notice there's a lot of games and stuff over here. You'll even notice we have like Dropbox, which was a controversial thing, which I believe it's now separated out from the settings panel. We also have over here, look at this. Ooh, Google's and Microsoft's. Ew. Well, what these actually all are is these are ICE applications. So ICE is one of the tools that you can install on other Linux distributions as well. But this is a way that you can put, basically you create SSBs, isolated browser profiles that are specific to individual websites. All of those things on there, these are actually all these SSBs. So they're actually nothing installed on the system. They're just pre-configured. You can come in here and remove them right here from ICE. So that is, they kind of do that as a showcase, although I almost wish that they wouldn't throw all that Microsofty stuff in there, but yeah, you kind of, in a way, understand why they do that. But you can come in here, of course, if you have Chrome, Chromium, or Vivaldi installed, then you can go ahead and set them up to use those engines instead of Firefox, which is the default. You can choose where they fall in the menu. You can just put in the name of the application, the web address, and then you can either use the site favicon or select an icon in the system. So that is actually one of the excellent features inside of Peppermint. We also have other cool tools like the advertiser blocker. This is going to add a lot of things to your host file. However, I am going to point out here that if you're using the advert blocker and then you go ahead and, I didn't want to change the theme for that. If you go ahead and boot up Firefox in the latest versions, it's like, hey, by the way, we're using DNS over HTTPS to secure you, and it gives you a okay or disable. It may not give me that depending on which version I'm running here. But it'll give you this, I'm okay with that. If you click I'm okay with that, then it will literally set DNS over HTTPS. One of the biggest downfalls and the reason I do not recommend using DNS over HTTPS is all the advert blockers put into Peppermint OS are not going to work at all because DNS over HTTPS bypasses your host file. That's why it should not be something on the system. You need to have more control over your operating system than that, and Firefox is taking away that control. So that's actually something worth mentioning, but the advertiser blocker is very good as long as you're not taking, not going to be using DNS over HTTPS. We also do have a variety of other settings specific to Peppermint. We don't quite have as many repaired options as we had in Linux Lite, but we do have things to restore the panel back to defaults if you mess up your panels. You can set a lot of other items. We do have the ability to install different browsers just really quick here instead of going into your software installers and doing that. Printers, additional drivers are over there, network tools over here, and your system tools over here. Again, we don't have a way to bring things back, but as we had in Linux Lite, but we do have a lot of excellent, good tools here. So I guess the bottom line of that is if you're brand new and you're worried about breaking things because you like to tinker, Linux Lite might be better because you can restore things back. Overall, I do like Peppermint a little bit better, but we'll get into that in a bit. Now let's go ahead and talk about, again, our snaps and our flat packs. Once again, just like Linux Lite, there are no snaps installed. However, snapd is already installed and configured in the system. But if we go in and we look at our software manager, we'll actually see that there's a few different software tools. We do have Synaptic Package Manager, which is what we had inside of Linux Lite, but we also have two other software managers. And I first like this this is a little bit bloated. Why do they do this? Well, there's actually an interesting, fun reason for this. So let's go ahead and examine which these guys are. This one here is your GNOME Software Center, and our other software center, I just have to remember which one's which. Is that software or is that software manager? That's software manager. I need the other one. I do wish that they gave us better names for them. Oh, no, never mind. Okay. I do wish they gave us better names. So this one here, the software manager here, this is actually the Linux Mint software manager. This one over here is the GNOME software manager. Overall, I like the Linux Mint software manager better. We have a separate Flatpak support built directly into the box here. So if you were to come up here and be looking for a package like GIMP, it's going to show you here that we have GIMP, and then we'll also have, there will be a couple of them here. So we have two of them. We have GIMP here, and we have GNU Image Manipulator Program here. The difference is that one of these is the Flatpak, and one of these, so this is the Flatpak version, and one of these is the repository version. So the thing that Ubuntu has been trying to do, several other distros like Peppermint has figured out better, Linux Mint has figured out better, Manjaro has figured out better in that you can enable or disable Flatpak or Snap support independently, and it will show you those individual tools. But the software, the Linux Mint Software Center here does not support snaps. And you can have I like the organization, the structure, the searching, and the speed of this one better. But if you are a person that does want to use snaps, this does not support your snaps. Bring us to the GNOME Software Center. If we do use the GNOME Software Center, this actually supports out of the box in the GUI. It supports the repository, the Flatpaks, and the snaps. So you can see here, and I like the implementation of this better. In fact, I almost say, as much as I hate to say it, they could probably do away with the Linux Mint one and just use this, because in this, we have, this is clearly the Flatpak one. Now, the other two, it doesn't tell us quite clearly until we click in, but this guy here is from the Ubuntu repositories. And this first one is going to be from the snaps. So this is the way that snaps should be implemented, or Flatpaks should be implemented, where I have the choice. I can search for something and I can choose between the snap, the repository, or the FlatHub. Sure, I understand there's the argument that says, well, a new user is not going to know what the difference is. I understand that, but if it comes down to it, I'd rather have the option and maybe a little bit more description as to what our differences happen to be. Of course, another application that does the same thing is, of course, if I can spell it right, Kden Live also is going to have a couple of them. So here we have a Flatpak. One of these is a snap. One of these is a repository. We just have to figure out which one's which. So this guy here is the source, Ubuntu Bionic Universe. That means it's from the Ubuntu repository. That would mean that this guy here is the snap package. So if you are wanting to use, this is why I don't like it. It's like I'm trying to pull it down. It's still waiting to load something. This is the snap store. So you have the ability to choose between the Flatpak, the snap, or the repository version on this distribution. This is the way it should go. Of course, if I were to want to install something like the Chromium browser, then we're going to actually see the snap version, or we're going to see the repository version, which consequently is also the snap version. You say you have the snap version or the snap version via apt. Go figure which one you happen to want. So, of course, there are certainly some downsides, and that is a problem that Linux Mint is seeking to alleviate in the next version, where they're going to disable apt from being able to install snap so that Chromium and other applications in the future will not be able to silently add snap if a person does not want it. So that's actually a nice tool. Regardless, Peppermint does have the ability here to choose between the snap, the Flatpak, or the repository version for whichever one you are wanting to use. We did notice when you booted this up, there is no start screen. So unless you already have an idea of how to use this or want to poke around yourself, you don't have the time shift installed. I don't think you do anyway. Yeah, you don't have the time shift installed. It's not going to prompt you to do backups. It's not going to give you the nice welcome screen. So Linux Lite is probably a little bit better on the for the brand new user. Peppermint's probably going to have a little bit more of the advanced user feel. So breaking these guys down, which one of these should we be using? I personally have a preference for Peppermint. So I run Peppermint actually on my writing computer. And by the way, mini commercial, my new science fiction novel, Synaptergy, is in stock now. I have my own copies here. You can find a link for that in the description down below. Synaptergy, science fiction novel. So I write, and on my writing computer, I do use Peppermint on that. I love the integration between taking the best of Linux Mint, taking the best of the repositories, having ad blockers, just a lot of the other things. There's so much excellent stuff goes into Peppermint. That being said, Linux Lite is going to be a little bit better if you happen to be a person needing your handheld a little bit more. Maybe you need to fix a system. Maybe you need a little bit of walkthroughs. You need more information on the front end because you're learning Linux. Linux Lite is probably going to be better for you in that respect. We didn't actually cover theming in the Peppermint. We pretty much have a variety of dark themes to pick from. There's probably a few light themes, but more attention for sure in the Peppermint theme has been done catering towards the dark themes. So if you are looking for a light theme, it's going to be easier to have a nicer theme in that, but that's neither here nor there. You will have some options. So overall, there's my take. They're both excellent distributions. I wouldn't specifically favor one over the other on any and every merit. There's definitely some advantages and disadvantages to each. So with that, let me know your favorite one of these two distributions in the comments down below, or just say, hey, I use Arch, by the way. Why not? So anyway, thanks for coming along, guys, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.